Good morning, everyone. Hi, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to let you guys just trickle in. I have a good topic for you guys today. So join, come on in. Come on in. If this is your first time, definitely comment. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Say hi. Let me know if this is your first time, where you're tuning in from. If this was not your first time, still say hi and let me know where you're tuning in from. Um, just going to wait for some of you guys to trickle in. While you are doing that, let me um, let me go ahead and type in my phone number um, in the comments. I'm having some issues with my tripod, so if it falls off, please call 407-995. Sorry, guys, I'm just typing my phone number into Instagram. Let me pin it so you guys can see it. Definitely drop your questions in there. Um, definitely drop your questions in there. I'll answer them once I finish. But somebody said from Miami, currently on VAWA, and I'm studying criminal law to go to law school and be just like you. You're amazing. That is amazing. Congratulations. I'm very proud of you, and you're going to do really well, with your career path. Very exciting. Thank you, Marva. Okay, so today I want to talk about basically the 5 core requirements for a VAWA self-petition. And I'm talking today about VAWA self-petition for petitioning for spouses. So, if you've never heard about VAWA before, this is your first time tuning in, let me quickly explain VAWA and those that it covers. So VAWA basically stands for Violence Against Women's Act. And basically, this act, even though it says violence against women, is for both men, women, parents, children, same genders, marriages, heterosexual marriages. Basically, if you are a victim of extreme cruelty or abuse by a U.S. citizen spouse or green card holder spouse, you can be eligible for VAWA and getting a 10-year green card through VAWA. If you are the child of a U.S. citizen or a green card holder, and you're under 21 or between the ages of 21 and 24 for a late application, you also can be eligible. And then the third category is if you are a parent of a U.S. citizen who's over the age of 21, and you experience extreme cruelty or abuse, you can also be eligible. One of the great things about VAWA is that even though you may have entered into the country with inspection, with a visa, or you entered in with a visa that doesn't allow you to adjust like a crewman visa, like, C1, D1, like if you went on a cruise or whatever it is, or if you entered into the country without inspection, like you crossed the border, etc., you can be eligible for these if you qualify. So I'm going to talk about real quick the 5 requirements, but today's focus is really going to be on the 5th requirement. And, maybe I'm going to just do like another series with each of the core requirements and what you need to show. So of course, the first requirement when you are filing a VAWA self-petition based on being married to a U.S. citizen or a green card holder is that you have to prove that your abusive spouse was a U.S. citizen, or is a U.S. citizen or a green card holder. So that is a critical step. I am Gaza. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. The second requirement is that proof of marriage. You have to prove that you and your spouse were legally married, and that your marriage is a good faith marriage. Guys, I cannot stress this enough, because this is the number one reason that people, especially people of African descent, get denied. I know Nigerians on here get upset when I call Nigerians out. Listen, I'm Nigerian, so I can call us out. This is the number one reason for denial. And what do I mean by that? If you divorce your previous spouse and you marry a US citizen, you need to make sure that your divorce from Nigeria is valid. You need to make sure your divorce from Ghana is valid. You need to make sure your divorce from whatever African country you got divorced in is valid. Y'all, USCIS literally has a special unit that dissects now Nigerian divorces. So the onus and the responsibility is on you that when you divorce, that you make sure that divorce is valid. Whether or not, you and this person have been married for this new person have been married for 10 years, 15 years, they don't care if the other marriage wasn't dissolved correctly. So not only do you have to prove that that marriage was dissolved correctly and that you entered into a legal marriage, you also have to show that your marriage was entered into with good faith, meaning you entered into this marriage to have a good marriage. But this is what happened, because nobody can plan that, right? So that is the number two and the most important. Well, I mean, they're all important, but this is the biggest one for denials, the validity of the marriage. Okay. Number three, abuse. As the law basically is about abuse, you have to show that you are a victim of extreme cruelty and abuse. I know a lot of times people will say, well, I wasn't thinking like, let me record what's happening, or, I don't have any evidence or like physical proof of injury or like a police report. So while you don't have to have any of those, the most important evidence is going to be your personal statement, your declaration, basically. Your declaration is your personal statement where you tell your story and also explain why you don't have those things. And any other affidavit or affiant that's willing to write a letter of support that know what you've been going through. Of course, if you have all those other things, those are for sure helpful, but it is not the end all be all if you don't have all those things, because USCIS will review every and all credible evidence. Okay. Number four, another really important one that we see as something that we get RFEs or NOIDs for is proof of residency. What do I mean by that? I just sounded like my mother-in-law. She always says, what do I mean by that? Proof of residency means that you have to show that you lived with your abusive spouse at some point. Now, people say, well, what's the requirement? How long? I didn't live with her for like a year, or I didn't live with him for like a year or two, whatever it is. There is actually no specific date or timeline that has been given, but you still have to provide proof of that cohabitation, that it happened. If you are outside the country so meaning you're outside of the United States, and basically you are married to an abuser, the only way you can submit a VAWA petition is if you can show that the abuse occurred in the United States, or that your spouse is in the US government or armed forces outside of the United States. So for instance, you may have married the person, like maybe a military person, and they were outside the country when you got married, you never came to the United States. In that case, even though you've not been to the United States, you can be eligible because that person works for the US government or armed forces. If they do not work for any of those, your proof of residency has to be in the United States. Okay. And then the final one, and the one that I just want to place emphasis on today, is good moral character. So when you are submitting a VAWA petition, you have to show that for the last 3 years preceding your VAWA application, that you are a person of good moral character. People say, well, how can I show good moral character? What are they talking about? What do they mean? So a lot of times, people will come to us. They may not have been in the United States for 3 years, and remember, you need 3 years good moral character. So in those instances, if you've not been in the United States for 3 years, but you qualify otherwise based on the other requirements, outside of getting an FBI fingerprint, the reason why we prefer FBI to state is because one of the things that we've observed, in this line of business is that immigrants are movers, like kind of like nomads, they move from one state to one state to one state, trying to settle, to find the best place to settle, to find work, or so because of that, you're not technically in one place for a long time, or one city or state. So when you do an FBI clearance, then you're doing it for the entire United States. If you know that you've only lived in one state, then you can do a police clearance where the police can basically do the clearance and say, this person doesn't have any criminal records here, or these are the criminal records that this person has. Now, if in either of these instances, the timeline that it covers is less than 2 years, one of the things you want to do is to get a police clearance from the country that you lived in prior to coming here. So if you lived in another country that includes the 3-year timeline, get proof from there. Other ways to get proof of good moral character, especially if there are some crimes or criminal activity in your record, or to get proof from community leaders, if you belong to any kind of religious worship, whether it's your imam, your pastor, you volunteer in a charity, your employer, people who know you and love you that can vouch for your character, those people can also write letters to show that you're a person of good moral character, like if you want to overcome the hump. Now, with good moral character is not necessarily saying that if you've ever been arrested, you are never going to get a green card. So that is not what it's saying. It is looking at crimes of moral turpitude that shows that this person does not have good moral character. Now, and if you say, I got a ticket, I got arrested because I was driving with a suspended license or without a driver's license or whatever it is, as long as you have the other proof and people that can vouch for you and your character, then that's what it is. Certain petty offenses, what I call petty offenses are like one-time offenses that don't arise to the level of crimes of moral turpitude, petty theft or something like that happened a few years ago, bad crowd, bad, whatever it is, different things. We can make those arguments, so that's what they're looking for in good moral character. So it's not just enough that you send your FBI clearance or that you send your, state police report clearance, but it has to cover a span of 3 years, in order for you to get it approved. So that is the core requirement I want to talk about today. My next slide, I'll try and to tackle some of the others, proven abuse, because I know that's like a big one, for a lot of people, and, determining the status of your U.S. Citizen, spouse, or LPR spouse, if you don't know it. All right, let me answer some questions before I jump off. Augusta says, does your firm work with any of the legal finance companies like BYD or Credit Client that helps if you don't have all the money to retain a lawyer? We do. These are not the firms that we work with, but if you schedule a consultation, we are happy to provide our referral link to one of the nonprofit organizations that provides loans to our clients who need those loans to cover the entire immigration costs. Okay. Good morning, Paulette Hope says, good morning. I filed my VAWA 3 years now, and I got 4.5 this last update. I received that they're reviewing it. I'm worried, Paulette. Hopefully everything goes well, but I don't know. You don't sound like our client, but if you want us to assist you in doing an inquiry just based on the timeline, this would be a good time to just do an inquiry to see what's going on with the case and what they're investigating, and just to basically analyze your filing to see what might be causing the delay. Okay. Okay. Kenny says, first time from Mississippi. Hey, what's up? Kimani says, I have my citizenship interview today. Wow, you're here. You're not even, you're here on the live. Like, this is not even important. You should just go get ready for your citizenship. But good luck on your citizenship. Advice that I would give you, citizenship and any other interview that you have with USCIS is just be honest. Typically just make sure that you've studied and, try and review the civics test questions. So typically, they would ask you 6 out of 10 questions. So basically, they will ask you 10 questions. As long as you get 6 correct, you would have passed the written portion of the test. But as those of you who have done your citizenship and naturalization know, because you don't know what 6 or 10 questions are going to come out, you have to study all 100. Make sure if you didn't submit your taxes before, that you just take a copy of your taxes for the last 3 or 5 years, because I'm not sure what your timeline is that you're applying for. And make sure that if you do have children that are under 21, who don't live with you, really under 18, who don't live with you, that you have some sort of evidence to show that you provide for them financially. Sometimes in an interview right there, they will call the other parent to get, I had a client who had 7 kids, and, I think there were like 4 parents, and USCIS, 2 of them were already like on a child support agreement. USCIS called right then and there to find out if he was taking care of the other children, and luckily he was, and taking care of all his 7 children, which is really admirable. And he was approved. So those are some of the things, and make sure that there's nothing critical in your, at this point it's kind of too late, but like with citizenship, they're dissecting every application that you've put through to the US before, from every B1, B2, every green card application to your naturalization application. So they're looking for discrepancies there, because ultimately US citizenship is the prize. So that final due diligence can be intense, but I'm pretty sure it will go well for you by the grace of God. Good luck, and come back on live and let us know how it goes on my next live. All right, good morning. Good morning, all of you. Good morning. I can't get everybody's name from good morning. Hello from New Mexico, J. Cam, Amy Jo from New York, First Lady Vicky from Atlanta. Hey, what's up? I'm Indianapolis, Florida. Good morning. Axe says, you never answered my question. Please do today. I don't know what your question is. Ask your question. Good morning. Thank you. Nails by Momo said, good morning. I'm married to a green card holder. What's the wait time? Well, the wait time is going to depend on whether you submitted an application or not, and where are you? Are you in the United States? Are you outside of the United States? Visa bulletin, I haven't checked the visa bulletin for November, but I believe it probably came out a few days ago. But as of October, basically, they're only accepting cases after the I-130, cases where your priority date, which your I-130 was prior to September 1st of 2023. So you can do the math with that. Does the Israel-Hamas war affect usual processing time in any way? At this time, it doesn't. It's very sad what is happening, and seeing so many children losing their lives, and so many young people and civilians. It's a very sad thing that's happening, and it's really heartbreaking to see that, but it doesn't affect the processing time. Now, having said that, as you know, presidential campaigns can change that. One of the things that, for instance, former President Trump has said is that if he does run, enter into office, he is going to reinstate the travel ban for certain countries like Libya, Yemen, any ally of those people. And if you remember, when he was in office, he did the travel ban for them, and a lot of the African countries that also had a large Muslim population, including Nigeria. So this is also to say to you that if you do qualify for something, because you don't know who's going to be in office as of January 2025, this is a good time to put in your application instead of dilly-dallying, because you never know what you're going to qualify for or what delay is going to happen as offices change. BMF Lupin from Jamaica. Thank you, first timer, for tuning in. Eno says beautiful hair. Oh, thank you so much. We never got married. Can I still get relief through VAWA and not a U visa? I'm so scared for my life. Brianna, I'm so sorry. I think this is a continuation of another question I can't see, but I am happy to consult with you. While you don't qualify for VAWA, you could possibly qualify for a T visa, because a lot of times, you can be a victim of labor trafficking by at the hands of your domestic partner, where basically you are either like a sex slave, a house slave, and stuff like that. Basically, that's your job. Just sit down there, bear babies. You can't do anything else. When I want this, this is what you're doing. So I'm happy to screen you to see, if you qualify for a T visa. And also, there are many resources, that can allow you to remove yourself from that situation, including looking at the local domestic violence shelters in your area, just to see what your options are. Okay. Devin Demerson says, I was placed in line for the oath ceremony on August 29th, but I haven't received a letter yet. I would say after 90 days, if you haven't, definitely do a USCIS inquiry, call them, or do an Ask Emma inquiry to find out what the holdup is, okay? All right, I got 2 more questions, and then I got to go. Style by Lady Fab says, thank you for all you do. I've been denied since December. I found out online, but up until now, I have not received any letter from them, and I've written back to them and no response. So Style by Lady Fab, I don't know what kind of case you have, but aside from writing to them, I would say call USCIS or do I don't know if you did a service inquiry, to say you never got that documentation so that they can resend it, or speak to a human being and ask them to resend it, or schedule an info pass. I had a client once, so it's years ago, this was like in 2019 before COVID, where they believed that they were denied. And for 5 years, they never got a letter or whatever the case may be. And at that time, they used to just allow us to do like an info pass and go into USCIS. I remember calling USCIS saying, this person was supposedly denied. They're still married. We don't understand why they were denied. So at least tell us why they were denied. If we're filing a new application, we'll file one. So we did a FOIA. A FOIA is where you basically ask USCIS, send the entire alien file. Let's see what's in there. We didn't find any denial in there. So scheduled an info pass. I and my clients went into USCIS office, when it was so much easier to do that back then. And I remember went into there, and, the supervisor admitted the error, basically, that the file, so while they put like a denial or whatever the case may be, they were not intending to deny him because they thought they didn't receive the medical, and they had the medical on the file. And basically it took 5 years, and the clients would never have known, if we never just went through like a rabbit hole to try to figure and dig our way out to figure out, well, why is this happening to this person? I mean, the person came to me after the delay. And so we were able to get them their green card, so hopefully, your denial is not really a denial, but that's what I would do. Last question. After staying 3 months on a B1, B2 visa in the United States, how long again until I can return to the States? That is determined by your application. Not your application, what your visa is. So if you say, let's say you have a 5-year visa, as long as you never overstay any entry into the United States, you can return up until, your visa expires. Well, right before your visa expires. So let's say you have a 5-year visa. Most entries will give you 6 months unless they're seeing a consistent come and go, come and go, come and go. Like if they're seeing like you're coming and going, it can warrant a secondary level review at Customs and Border. Am I saying they're going to deny you entry? No, but it can warrant questions of, well, why do you keep coming back so often, since you don't live here? So those are things that you got to take into consideration. All right, guys, it was nice chatting with you this morning. Again, if you want to schedule a consultation, call me, 407-995-6567. You can also send a WhatsApp message to 404-333-8751 with your number, and we'll call you to schedule a consultation. All right, guys, I hope you have a wonderful week.